Daeho sat alone in his small Seoul apartment, staring at a cup of instant noodles. Steam rose from the cup, fogging up his glasses slightly. Outside his window, the city lights blinked in the darkness. It was Thanksgiving evening, though most Koreans didn't celebrate the American holiday. Daeho had picked up the tradition from watching too many American movies. Now it just felt like another lonely Thursday night. He was 28 years old and worked as a financial analyst. His job involved staring at spreadsheets all day, tracking numbers that represented other people's money. The work paid his bills, but barely left enough for anything else. His apartment was tiny, just one room with a bathroom. A bed, a desk, a small TV, and a hot plate for cooking. This was his life. Daeho's mother had died when he was 10. Cancer had taken her quickly, leaving him with his grandmother who raised him until she passed away 5 years ago. He never knew his father. His mother never spoke about him, and there were no photos, no letters, nothing. It was as if half of his family history had been erased. Sometimes he wondered if his father even knew he existed. He slurped his noodles and flipped through channels on his TV. News, dramas, game shows. Nothing held his attention. He was about to turn it off when his doorbell rang. That was strange. He wasn't expecting anyone. His few friends were probably at home with their own families. He got up and checked the peephole. Nobody there. When he opened the door, he found a small package sitting on his doormat. It was wrapped in material that looked like metal but felt soft like cloth. The surface shimmered with colors that didn't quite exist, shifting between blue and purple and something else entirely. There was no address label, no shipping information, nothing to indicate where it came from. Daeho picked it up carefully. It was light, almost weightless. He brought it inside and set it on his desk. For several minutes, he just stared at it. Should he open it? What if it was dangerous? But curiosity won over caution. He slowly unwrapped the strange material. Inside was a crystal device about the size of his palm. It was perfectly smooth, shaped like a pyramid with rounded edges. Colored lights swirled inside it like tiny galaxies. The moment his fingers touched it, the crystal began to glow brighter. It lifted from his hand and floated in the air above his desk. What the hell? Daeho jumped back, knocking his chair over. The crystal began projecting a hologram. At first, it was just shapes and colors, but then an image formed. It was a figure, tall and imposing, definitely not human. The being had pale blue skin and large eyes that glowed with an inner light. It wore armor that looked both ancient and impossibly advanced, covered in symbols and patterns that seemed to move. "Greetings, Daeho Kim," the figure said. The words came out in perfect Korean, though the being's mouth movements didn't quite match.
"I am Emperor Talvon of the Rexian Empire.
I rule over 4,000 star systems across this section of the galaxy, and I am your grandfather." Daeho's legs felt weak. He grabbed his desk to steady himself. "This is a joke, right? Some kind of prank?" "This is not a joke," the hologram continued. "Your mother was my daughter, Princess May of the Royal House of Rexus. She fled to Earth 29 years ago, against my wishes because she fell in love with a human explorer who had accidentally discovered one of our hidden outposts. Ifurbe the Union, she chose love over her crown." The Emperor's expression softened slightly. "I was angry for many years. I cut off all contact, declared her dead to the Empire. But I never stopped watching over her or over you. When she became ill, I wanted to bring her home, to save her with our medicine. She refused. She wanted to die as a human on Earth with her son. She made me promise to leave you alone until you were grown, until you could make your own choices." Daeho sank into his chair. His mind was racing. This couldn't be real. Aliens, an empire spanning thousands of star systems? His mother was an alien princess? It sounded like a bad science fiction movie. "I know this is difficult to accept," the Emperor said, "but I have kept my promise to your mother. You have lived a human life, made your own way. Now I am old, Daeho. My time grows short. Before I die, I wish to meet my grandson. I wish to show you where you come from, to give you a choice about your future. You have a family among the stars if you want it." The hologram changed, showing images of incredible things, massive ships floating in space, cities built on rings around distant suns, beings of 100 different species walking together through crystal corridors. Then it showed a planet, beautiful and strange, with purple oceans and 3 moons. "This is Vrexus Prime, the heart of our empire. I am sending a ship to retrieve you. It will arrive in approximately 10 minutes. You may bring whatever you wish, but you need nothing. Everything will be provided. I hope you will come. I hope I can finally meet my daughter's son. The hologram flickered and disappeared. The crystal fell to the desk with a soft clink. Taeho sat in silence, his heart pounding. Part of him wanted to laugh it off, to convince himself he had fallen asleep and was dreaming. But the crystal was real, sitting there on his desk. And something deep inside him, something he couldn't explain, told him it was all true. His mother's face flashed through his memory. The way she used to tell him stories about faraway places, about heroes and adventures among the stars. He had thought they were just fairy tales. But maybe they were memories. Maybe she had been telling him about her real home all along. 10 minutes. He had 10 minutes to decide whether to completely upend his life. He looked around his tiny apartment, at his mundane existence. What did he really have here? A job he didn't love. An apartment that barely qualified as living space, no family, few friends. What was he giving up, really? He grabbed a backpack and threw in some clothes, his phone, his mother's photo, and the small box of her belongings he had kept. Then he sat on his bed and waited. 8 minutes later, the entire apartment began to shake. Taeho rushed to his window. Outside, hovering impossibly above the street, was a ship. It was sleek and dark, covered in the same shifting colors as the wrapping material. It made no sound despite its massive size. People on the street were stopping, pointing, pulling out their phones. A beam of light shot down from the ship, creating a circle on the street below. Taeho's phone buzzed. A message appeared in Korean. Step into the light. He grabbed his backpack, took one last look at his apartment, and walked out. In the hallway, his neighbor's door opened. Old Mrs. Park peeked out, her eyes wide with fear and wonder. I'm going to visit family, Taeho told her. It was the truth in a way. He took the elevator down and walked outside. The crowd had gathered at a safe distance, watching the light beam. Taeho walked forward, his legs shaking but his mind clear. He stepped into the light. The world dissolved around him. He felt weightless, floating upward. The street below grew smaller. Then everything went white and he felt himself being pulled aboard the ship. The last thing he saw before losing consciousness was the city of Seoul, disappearing beneath him, and beyond it, the curve of Earth against the darkness of space. His human life was over. His galactic life was about to begin. Taeho woke up in a bed that was far too comfortable to be his own. The sheets felt like cool water against his skin. When he opened his eyes, he found himself staring at a ceiling that showed the stars. Not a projection or a screen, but actual stars, as if the roof didn't exist at all. He sat up quickly, his heart racing. The room was enormous, bigger than his entire apartment back in Seoul. The walls seemed to be made of crystal that glowed softly with warm light. Strange plants grew in corners, their leaves shimmering with bioluminescence. Through a massive window, he could see a planet below, swirling with purple and silver clouds. You are awake, a voice said. Taeho turned to see a figure standing near the door. It was humanoid, but clearly not human. Tall, with the same pale blue skin as the Emperor, but younger looking. It wore a formal uniform decorated with medals and symbols. I am Ambassador Hyunwoo, the figure said, bowing slightly. I have been assigned to guide you during your stay. How are you feeling? Confused, Taeho admitted, climbing out of bed. He was still wearing his clothes from Earth. Where am I? You are aboard the Imperial Palace, which orbits Rex's Prime. The journey took approximately 6 hours. You slept through most of it. The Emperor wishes to see you immediately if you are ready. Taeho looked down at himself. Shouldn't I change or something? I'm not exactly dressed for meeting royalty. The Emperor does not care about such things. He simply wishes to meet his grandson. Hyunwoo's expression was neutral, but Taeho detected something else in his tone. Disapproval? Resentment? He wasn't sure. They walked through corridors that seemed to stretch forever. Other beings passed them, and Taeho tried not to stare. Some looked almost human. Others were completely alien, with extra limbs, unusual skin colors, or bodies that defied easy description. They all stopped and bowed when they saw Hyunwoo, and their eyes lingered on Taeho with obvious curiosity. The throne room was breathtaking. It was a massive space with a floor made of transparent crystal. Below, Taeho could see the planet rotating slowly. The wall showed images of different worlds, each one a part of the Empire. And at the far end, sitting on a throne that seemed carved from a single piece of starlight, was Emperor Talvon. In person, he was even more imposing than his hologram. He was ancient, that much was clear. His skin had a translucent quality and his movements were slow and careful. But his eyes were sharp and bright, and when he saw Deho, his entire face transformed with joy. "Come closer, grandson," the Emperor said, his voice echoing in the vast chamber. Deho walked forward, his legs shaking. He didn't know if he should bow or kneel or what. In the end, he just stood there awkwardly. "You look so much like her," the Emperor said softly. "Like my May. Same eyes, same expression when you are uncertain." He stood up slowly with effort and stepped down from his throne. "I am glad you came. I was afraid you would refuse." "I'm still not sure why I'm here," Deho said honestly. "You said you wanted to meet me, but there's more to this, isn't there?" The Emperor smiled. "You are direct. Good. Yes, there is more. Walk with me." They moved to a smaller room off the throne chamber. It was more intimate, with comfortable seats and a view of the stars. A woman was already there, tall and elegant, with the same blue skin and royal bearing. She watched Deho with cold, calculating eyes. "This is Princess Jia, your aunt," the Emperor said. "My younger daughter." Jia bowed slightly, but her smile didn't reach her eyes. "Welcome, nephew. How unexpected to discover you exist." The Emperor gestured for everyone to sit. Hyunwoo stood by the door like a guard. The Emperor settled into his chair with a sigh. "Let me tell you about the Galactic Fund," the Emperor began. 10,000 years ago, my ancestor established a trust. Its purpose was to help younger civilizations develop, to give them the resources and knowledge they needed to reach the stars. Not direct interference, but subtle help. Technology hints, disaster prevention, infrastructure support. He activated a holographic display that showed charts and numbers that made Deho's financial analyst brain wake up. The numbers were staggering. The fund has grown over millennia. It now controls assets worth approximately 47 trillion galactic credits. In Earth terms, that would be roughly $850 quadrillion. It supports programs across 1,000 worlds: medical research, environmental restoration, education, peaceful exploration. Deho's mouth went dry. That's an impossible amount of money, indeed. And someone must control it. For generations, that has been the Emperor's responsibility. But I am dying, Deho. In a few months, perhaps a year, my time will end. The fund must pass to the next generation. Princess Jia leaned forward. Which is traditionally the eldest child or their heir. I have been preparing for this responsibility my entire life. But, the Emperor continued, looking at Jia with something like sadness, the fund's charter is clear. It passes to the most direct living descendant of the founder. That is you, Deho. As my daughter's only child, you are my sole direct heir. The room fell silent. Deho felt like he couldn't breathe. Wait, you're saying I inherit this fund? Not just inherit. You control it. You decide how it is used, where the money goes, which civilizations receive help. It is perhaps the most powerful position in the galaxy, beyond even the throne itself. Deho looked at Jia. Her face was a mask of barely controlled fury. This is ridiculous, she said, her voice tight. He knows nothing of galactic politics, of the responsibilities involved. He is barely even Vrexian. He was raised as a human. That is exactly why your mother chose Earth, the Emperor said quietly. She knew palace life, knew the corruption and scheming that comes with power. She wanted her child raised away from that, raised with different values. Human values? Human values? Jia laughed bitterly. Humans are primitive. They still fight among themselves, still poison their own planet. What could they possibly teach anyone? Compassion, the Emperor said firmly. Innovation. The ability to dream. Humans have achieved remarkable things with almost no help at all. They split the atom, reached their moon, built global communication networks all on their own. The fund has barely touched Earth, yet look how fast they advance. He turned back to Deho. That is what I want to show you. I want you to see what the fund does, what your inheritance means. Then you can decide if you wish to accept this responsibility. And if I refuse? Deho asked. Then it passes to the next heir. The Emperor glanced at Jia. But I hope you will not refuse without understanding what is at stake. A tall woman in military armor entered the room. She had scars across her face and moved with the confidence of a warrior. Emperor, forgive the interruption. There is a situation requiring your attention. Captain Bo Young, what is it? A dispute on the border systems. Nothing urgent, but it requires your decision. The Emperor stood slowly. I must attend to this. Hyunwoo, please show Deho to his quarters. Give him access to the fund's records. Let him see everything. He looked at Deho. We will speak again tomorrow. Rest, learn, and think carefully about your future. After the Emperor left with Captain Bo Young, Ga stood and walked close to Deho. Up close, she was intimidating, taller, and radiating authority. Listen to me, human, she said quietly. I have dedicated my life to preparing for this role. I understand the fund, the politics, the delicate balance required. You are a child playing with forces beyond your comprehension. If you have any wisdom at all, you will refuse this inheritance and go back to your pathetic little planet. She swept out of the room before Deho could respond. Hyunwoo cleared his throat. I will show you to your quarters now. As they walked back through the corridors, Deho's mind raced. This was insane. Him controlling a fund worth more than most planets? Making decisions that affected entire civilizations? He was just a guy who analyzed spreadsheets in Seoul. How was he supposed to handle this? But another part of him, the part that had always felt like something was missing, felt a strange rightness to all of this. His mother had been part of something important, something that helped people across the galaxy. And now he was being offered a chance to continue that. Work. His quarters turned out to be a suite of rooms that would have fit his entire apartment. Building back on Earth, Hyunwoo showed him how to access the computer systems, then left him alone. Deho sat down and began reading through the fund's records. Hours passed as he learned about projects on dozens of worlds, medical breakthroughs that saved billions of lives, agricultural programs that ended famines, educational initiatives that uplifted entire populations. And there, buried in the files, he found Earth. The fund had been quietly helping humanity for decades. A research grant here, a technology blueprint there, always subtle, always hidden. Clean energy designs, vaccine formulations, satellite improvements. Humanity thought they had discovered these things on their own. But they had been nudged, guided, helped along by his grandfather's fund. As dawn broke over Vrexus Prime, painting the purple oceans with golden light, Deho realized something. This wasn't just about him. This was about every species struggling to survive, every civilization trying to reach the stars. His mother had given up a throne for love, but she had also believed in helping others. Maybe he could do the same. Maybe he could take this impossible. 3 days passed in a blur of information and culture shock. Deho spent his mornings learning about galactic politics from Hyunwoo, who remained coldly professional. His afternoons were devoted to studying the fund's operations, diving deep into files that revealed the scope of what his grandfather had built. The evenings were formal dinners with various ambassadors and nobles, each one sizing him up, trying to determine if this human was worthy of his inheritance. On the 4th day, he met someone who actually seemed happy to see him. Dr. Yoonji worked in the palace's xenobiology lab. She was half Rexian, half human, with features that blended both species. Her skin had a faint blue tint and her eyes were larger than a normal human's, but she could have walked down any street in Seoul without causing too much attention. When she smiled at Deho, it was the first genuine warmth he had experienced since arriving. Finally, another human, she said in Korean, though with an odd accent. Well, half human in my case, but close enough. You must be going crazy with all this formal palace nonsense. Deho laughed for the first time in days. You have no idea. Everyone here looks at me like I'm either a threat or an insect. Both, probably, Yoonji said cheerfully. The nobles don't know what to make of you. You're the emperor's heir, which means you have status. But you're also human, which they see as primitive. It's confusing for them. She gestured around her lab, filled with strange specimens in containers. I study cross-species genetics, trying to understand how different species can have compatible biology. Your mother and my mother both proved it's possible. How did you end up here? Deho asked. My mother was a scientist who worked with the Vrexians. She fell in love with a Vrexian researcher. I was born on a colony world and came here to study. I've lived in both worlds, human and Vrexian. It gives me a useful perspective. She looked at him seriously. Can I give you some advice? Please, be careful. The fund represents more power than you can imagine. Princess Gia isn't the only one who wants control of it. There are factions in the military who think the money should go to defense, not charity. Corporate interests who want to privatize it. Political groups who want to use it to buy influence. Your grandfather has managed to keep it independent for decades, but he's dying. Everyone is positioning themselves for what comes next. Are you saying I'm in danger? I'm saying you should trust very few people here. She hesitated, including me technically. But I'm telling you this because I believe in what the fund does. My homeworld receives support from it. Without that help, millions would have died in a plague. The fund saved my entire planet. Before Daeho could respond, alarms began blaring throughout the palace. Red lights flashed in the corridors. Yoonji's expression changed immediately. That's the emergency lockdown signal. Something's wrong. They rushed out of the lab. The corridors were filled with guards running in formation. Captain Bo Young appeared, her armor now fully activated, energy weapons at the ready. Dr. Yoonji, get to a safe location. Daeho, come with me now. What's happening? Daeho asked as Bo Young pulled him along. Assassination attempt. Someone tried to poison the Emperor's food. The toxin was caught by scanners, but it was a sophisticated attempt. Whoever did this had inside knowledge of palace security. They reached a fortified room deep in the palace. The Emperor was there, looking tired but unharmed. Hyunwoo stood beside him, along with several military officers. Princess Jia was also present, her face a mask of concern. Father, thank the stars you're safe, Jia said. Someone wants me dead, the Emperor said bluntly. Or perhaps they want to create chaos before the succession. Either way, this complicates matters. One of the military officers, an imposing figure with medals covering his chest, stepped forward. Emperor, I have been saying for years that the fund makes us vulnerable. We spend resources helping primitive worlds while our enemies grow stronger. This attack proves we need to redirect those funds to military readiness. Admiral Sang-ho, this is not the time, the Emperor said wearily. It is exactly the time. Your heir, he gestured dismissively at Daeho, has no understanding of the threats we face. No military training, no political experience. He will run the fund into the ground within a year. Let me be frank, Emperor. The officer corps does not support this succession. The succession is not yours to support or reject, Captain Bo Young said sharply. It follows the charter established 100 centuries ago. The charter was written for a different time, Sang-ho replied. We live in a dangerous galaxy. We cannot afford to have our greatest resource controlled by an inexperienced child. The Emperor raised his hand for silence. Enough, I will not debate this now. Find who attempted to kill me. Then we will discuss the future. Over the next 2 days, the investigation continued. Daeho was confined to his quarters for his own safety, with guards posted outside. He spent the time reading more about the fund's impact on Earth, and what he discovered both amazed and worried him. The fund had been more involved with humanity than he realized. Clean energy breakthroughs in the 1990s, advances in medical imaging, improvements in satellite technology, even some agricultural innovations, all of them had received subtle assistance from the fund. Humanity thought they had achieved these things alone, but they had been guided, nudged in the right direction. It made him uncomfortable. Were humans really as innovative as everyone claimed? Or had they been helped every step of the way? On the 3rd day, Captain Bo Young came to his room. We found something. You should see this. She led him to a secure conference room where Yoonji was waiting with computer displays showing communication records. We tracked the source of the poison, Bo Young explained. It came from a supply shipment that was approved by someone with high-level clearance. The authorization codes belonged to someone in the royal family. Jia, Daeho said. We cannot prove it yet, Bo Young admitted. But we found something else. She has been meeting secretly with Admiral Sang-ho multiple times over the past months. Yoonji pulled up surveillance footage showing Jia and the Admiral in a private room, talking intensely. We can't hear what they're saying, but their body language suggests planning, conspiracy. They want to stop the succession, Daeho said.
Jia wants the fund and Sang-ho wants its money for his military.
They're working together, possibly, Bo Young said. But we need proof before we can act. Accusing a princess and an admiral without evidence would tear the empire apart. Daeho thought about everything he had learned. The fund had helped countless worlds, saved billions of lives, given species like humanity the chance to reach for the stars. But it also represented incredible power, and power always attracted those who wanted to misuse it. What would happen if Jia and Sang-ho got control of the fund? He asked. Bo Young's expression was grim. The military would be strengthened, certainly. But the aid programs would end. Worlds that depend on the fund would be abandoned. Species trying to develop would be left to struggle alone. The empire would become more aggressive, more militaristic. Everything your grandfather built would be destroyed. And humanity? Daeho asked. Yunji pulled up more files. Earth has been receiving increasing support over the past decade. Your species is at a critical point. You have the potential to become a major galactic civilization, but you're also on the edge of destroying yourselves. The fund has been trying to push you toward the better path. If Jia takes over, that support ends immediately. Humanity would be on its own. Daeho felt the weight of it settling on his shoulders. This wasn't just about him or his inheritance. This was about the future of countless species, including his own. His mother had fled the Empire to protect him, but she had also believed in what the fund represented. She had believed in helping others and giving every species a chance. I need to understand more, he said. I need to see what the fund has actually done for Earth. Can we go there? Can we visit some of the projects? Bo Young and Yunji exchanged looks. That's risky, Bo Young said. If there's a conspiracy against you, leaving the palace makes you vulnerable. I don't care. I can't make decisions about Earth's future without seeing it for myself. If I'm going to accept this inheritance, I need to know what it really means. Yunji smiled. Spoken like someone who actually cares about the responsibility, not just the power. I can arrange a ship, Bo Young said after a moment. We'll go quietly without announcing it. A small team, maximum security. But Daeho, if we do this, you need to understand something. The moment you accept this inheritance, you become a target. People will try to manipulate you, bribe you, threaten you. Some will try to kill you. Your life will never be simple again. Daeho thought about his small apartment in Seoul, his boring job, his lonely existence. That life had been simple, but it had also felt empty. Like he was waiting for something without knowing what. I think my life stopped being simple the moment that crystal arrived at my door, he said. Now I need to figure out if I'm brave enough to step into the complicated one. That night, they slipped away from the palace on a small, fast ship. The destination was Earth, where Daeho would see firsthand what his grandfather's legacy had built, and what would be lost if Jia and her conspirators won. As Vrex's Prime disappeared behind them, and the darkness of space stretched ahead, the ship landed in a remote area of Iceland, far from any cities. The location had been chosen carefully. It was isolated with low population density, making it perfect for a secret facility. As Daeho stepped off the ship, cold wind hit his face, bringing with it the smell of volcanic rock and snow. It felt good to breathe Earth air again. This is Research Station Gamma 7, Yunji explained as they walked toward a structure that looked like an ordinary geothermal power plant. On the surface, it studies renewable energy. Underground, it's one of 17 facilities where Vrexian technology is adapted for human use. They descended through several security checkpoints. The guards were human, but they wore equipment that was definitely not from Earth. Inside, the facility opened into a massive underground complex. Scientists in lab coats moved between workstations. Holographic displays showed designs and formulas. It looked like a scene from a science fiction movie. A woman approached them, middle-aged with gray hair and tired eyes. She stopped when she saw Daeho, her expression shifting to shock. Dr. Kang, Bo Young said. This is Daeho Kim, grandson of Emperor Talvon. Dr. Kang bowed deeply. I knew your mother. She came here once, many years ago, when she first fled to Earth. She was the one who convinced the Emperor to increase support for humanity. She believed we had potential. What do you do here? Daeho asked. We adapt alien technology for human manufacturing capabilities. The fund provides designs, but we have to modify them because Earth doesn't have the same materials or industrial base as advanced civilizations. She led them through the facility. That medical imaging breakthrough 10 years ago? We developed it here. The new battery technology that's revolutionizing electric vehicles? Here. The water purification system saving millions in developing countries? Also here. She showed him labs where scientists were working on dozens of projects. Improved solar panels, better crop varieties, advanced materials for construction, medical treatments for diseases that currently had no cure. All of it was based on technology from the Galactic Fund, carefully adapted so it seemed like natural human innovation. We're not just giving you technology, Dr. Kang explained. We're giving you the tools to figure it out yourselves. Every design we provide is incomplete, requiring human ingenuity to finish it. That way, humans are actually learning and innovating, not just copying. Your species is developing real capability, not dependence. How many people know about this? Daeho asked. On Earth? Maybe 200 scientists and officials spread across all the hidden facilities. We were chosen carefully, vetted for years. The rest of humanity has no idea we're being helped. They think all these advancements are purely human achievement. Daeho thought about that. Was it ethical to help humanity without their knowledge? Or was it better to let people believe in their own capability, even if they had assistance? They visited 2 more facilities over the next day. One in Brazil was working on agricultural projects. Another in South Korea, hidden beneath a university in Seoul, focused on artificial intelligence and computer systems. Everywhere he went, Daeho saw the same thing. Humans working incredibly hard to solve problems, helped by subtle guidance from the fund. On their second night on Earth, Bo Young received an urgent message. Her face went pale as she read it. We need to return to Vrexis immediately. The Emperor has called an emergency session of the Imperial Council. Princess Gia has made her move. The journey back felt longer than before. Daeho's mind raced with questions. What had Gia done? Was his grandfather safe? What would happen to the fund? They arrived to find the palace in controlled chaos. Guards were everywhere and the atmosphere was tense. Hyunwoo met them at the landing bay, his expression more serious than usual. The princess has filed a formal challenge to the succession. She's demanding the Imperial Council review the fund's charter and overturn your inheritance. Admiral Sang-ho has brought military leaders to support her claim. The Emperor is barely strong enough to attend the session. The council chamber was enormous, filled with representatives from across the empire. Hundreds of beings from different species sat in tiered seats surrounding a central platform. The Emperor sat on his throne looking frailer than ever. Princess Gia stood on the platform, confident and composed. Admiral Sang-ho and his officers stood behind her in full military dress. Daeho, Bo Young, and Yoonji entered quietly and took seats near the Emperor. Gia's eyes found Daeho immediately and she smiled coldly. The session will begin, the Emperor announced, his voice amplified throughout the chamber. Princess Gia has challenged the succession of the Galactic Fund. Speak your case. Gia stepped forward, her voice clear and strong. Honored council members, I speak today not from personal ambition, but from concern for the Empire's future. The Galactic Fund was established to help deserving species reach the stars, but under current management it has become wasteful and ineffective. She activated a holographic display showing images of Earth. Cities polluted with smog, plastic floating in oceans, forests being destroyed, people starving while others lived in luxury. Images of wars, weapons, violence. This is humanity, the species my nephew represents. They have received fund support for decades, and yet look at them. They still fight among themselves. They still poison their own planet. They develop weapons instead of solutions. They divide themselves by meaningless categories like skin color and birthplace. This is what the fund's investment has produced. Murmurs ran through the council. Many were nodding in agreement. I propose that the fund has failed in its mission. Instead of wasting resources on species that refuse to grow, we should invest in the Empire's strength. Our borders are threatened. Our military needs modernization. The fund's assets should be redirected to defense and internal development. And control of those assets should go to someone who understands galactic politics, not a human who has lived in ignorant isolation his entire life. The Admiral stepped forward. The military supports Princess Gia's assessment. We cannot afford to be charitable when threats surround us. Resources must be allocated to those who can use them effectively. The council erupted in debate. Some supported Gia. Others defended the fund's mission. Daeho sat frozen, watching his inheritance and his species being torn apart in front of hundreds of strangers. The Emperor raised his hand for silence. Daeho Kim, grandson of my blood, heir to the fund. What is your response? Every eye in the chamber turned to him. Daeho stood slowly, his legs shaking. He walked to the platform, feeling impossibly small in this vast space filled with beings who had centuries of experience and power. I'm not a politician, he began, his voice barely steady. I'm not a warrior or a diplomat. Until 2 weeks ago, I was just a financial analyst eating instant noodles in a tiny apartment. My aunt is right that I don't understand galactic politics. But I understand something else. I understand what it means to struggle. He looked at the display showing Earth's problems. Yes, humanity has issues. We fight, we make mistakes, we damage our planet. But you know what else we do? We try. We keep trying even when things seem impossible. We went from riding horses to walking on the moon in less than a century. We built global communication networks. We developed medicine that extended our lifespan by decades. We created art and music that expresses emotions in ways words cannot, and we did most of that ourselves. He activated his own display showing different images of Earth. A doctor in a rural clinic saving a child's life. Engineers building infrastructure in poor communities. Teachers educating children. Scientists collaborating across borders. People of different backgrounds coming together to solve problems. The fund didn't make us do these things. It gave us tools, yes, but we chose how to use them. Every species in this chamber faced similar challenges. The Vrexians had a global war that nearly destroyed them 3,000 years ago. The Kelsey people poisoned their oceans before learning to clean them. The Tharn went through 500 years of authoritarian rule before choosing democracy. I've read the histories, he pointed at Gia. My aunt says humanity is a failed investment. But by that logic, every species is a failed investment at some point in their development. The fund's purpose isn't to invest in perfect civilizations. It's to give struggling ones a chance to become better. To help them reach the point where they can help themselves. His voice grew stronger. I've seen what the fund does on Earth. Medical technology that saves millions of lives. Agricultural systems that feed hungry people. Clean energy that might save our planet. These things work because humans are smart and creative enough to use them. We're not perfect, but we're learning. We're growing. Isn't that what the fund is supposed to support? He turned to face the full council. Princess Gia wants to use the fund's money for military power. She wants to build weapons and secure borders, and maybe that feels safer. Maybe it feels more practical, but my grandfather built something different. He built hope. He built the belief that every species, no matter how primitive or flawed, deserves a chance to reach the stars. If you give up on that, if you decide that only the strong deserve help, then you become the very thing you're trying to defend against. The chamber was silent. Daeho's heart pounded in his chest. Humanity isn't perfect. We may never be perfect. Daeho never made it to the council vote. He woke to the sound of explosions. The palace shook violently, throwing him from his bed. Alarms screamed through the corridors. Red emergency lights bathed everything in crimson. He stumbled to his feet, his heart racing, and ran to the window. Outside, military ships surrounded the palace, their weapons charging. The door burst open. Captain Bo Young rushed in, her armor damaged and smoking. We need to move now. Admiral Sang-ho has launched a coup. What? Daeho grabbed his clothes, dressing quickly. He seized control of the Fifth Fleet and surrounded the palace. He's demanding immediate surrender and transfer of the fund to military control. The Emperor is under siege in the throne room. They ran through chaos. Guards fought other guards in the corridors. Loyal soldiers in blue armor battled against rebels in red. Energy weapons scorched walls. Bodies lay fallen. This wasn't a political debate anymore. This was war. Yunji met them at an intersection, her face pale. They've cut off all communication with the rest of the Empire. Xia is broadcasting a message claiming the Emperor has gone mad and must be removed for the good of all. Where is she? Daeho asked. In the council chamber with half the military leadership. She's declaring herself Empress and dissolving the fund's independence. They reached the throne room to find it barricaded. Loyal guards had formed a defensive perimeter. Inside, the Emperor sat on his throne, looking more dead than alive. Hyunwoo stood beside him, along with a handful of advisors and guards. Grandfather, Daeho said, rushing to him. The Emperor's hand trembled as he reached for Daeho. My time has come, grandson. My heart fails even as we speak. But before I die, I must tell you something. The succession, the vote, all of it was a test. What do you mean? The fund's true charter, the one written by my ancestor 10,000 years ago, contains a secret provision. The heir must prove themselves worthy not by bloodline alone, but by character. They must demonstrate wisdom, compassion, and the willingness to sacrifice personal gain for the greater good. He coughed, his body shaking. I have watched you these past weeks. I have seen how you questioned, how you sought to understand rather than simply take power. I have heard how you spoke before the council, defending not your own interests, but the very idea of hope. The Emperor's breathing became labored. The charter requires one final test. The heir must make an impossible choice. They must choose between unlimited power or unlimited service, between ruling or serving, between the throne or the people. I don't understand, Deho said. You will. The Emperor pressed a small device into Deho's hand. This contains the true charter and my final instructions. When I am gone, you must decide what kind of leader the galaxy needs. Not what kind I want you to be, but what you believe is right. The throne room doors exploded inward. Admiral Sang-Ho entered with dozens of armed soldiers. Princess Ga walked beside him wearing a crown that wasn't hers yet. Father, your resistance is pointless, Gia said. I am claiming the throne for the good of the Empire. Surrender the fund's control codes and I will ensure you die peacefully. Never, the Emperor whispered. Sang-Ho raised his weapon. Then you die anyway, and we take them from your corpse. Wait. Deho stepped forward. I have something to say. Gia laughed. The human speaks, how amusing. Say your last words quickly. Deho looked at the device in his hand. In his mind, he could hear his mother's voice from childhood memories, telling him stories about heroes who sacrificed everything to save others. He thought about the fund, about all the species it helped, about humanity struggling to survive and grow. He thought about what kind of galaxy he wanted to live in. I've made my choice, he said. I don't accept the inheritance. Silence fell over the room. Everyone stared at him. What? Gia said. I don't want the fund. I don't want control over trillions of credits or power over thousands of worlds. That's not what the galaxy needs. He activated the device, and a hologram appeared, showing the true charter of the Galactic Fund. The founder wrote this provision for moments exactly like this, when ambition threatens to corrupt the fund's purpose, when power-hungry individuals seek to twist it into a weapon or a tool of control. The true heir isn't the one who wants power. It's the one willing to give it away. He read from the charter. Let the fund be controlled not by kings or emperors, but by the will of those it serves. Let every species with a voice have a say in how hope is distributed. Let no single being hold the power of stars, lest they become a tyrant. Deho looked at his grandfather, who smiled weakly. I propose we dissolve imperial control of the fund entirely. Instead, we create a democratic council, with representatives elected from every member species of the Empire. The fund becomes truly galactic, managed by all species for the benefit of all species. No more royal control, no more military interference, just people helping people across the stars. That's insane, Sang-Ho said. You would give control to the masses, to primitive species who know nothing of responsibility? I would give it to the species who actually benefit from it, to the doctors saving lives, the farmers feeding their people, the teachers educating children. They understand its value better than any emperor or admiral ever could. Gia's face twisted with rage. You fool. You would throw away the greatest power in the galaxy? I would transform it into something better, something that can't be stolen or corrupted, something that serves everyone, not just the powerful. The Emperor reached up and removed his crown. My grandson has proven his wisdom. He has passed the final test by refusing the prize. He has chosen service over power. He looked at Gia. You have failed, daughter, by wanting it too much. No. Gia lunged forward, but Bo Young blocked her path. The Emperor's voice rang out, stronger than it had been in days, as if he was using his last reserves of life. By the authority granted to me by the ancient charter, I dissolve the imperial succession. I transform the Galactic Fund into a democratic trust, managed by an elected council. I appoint Dae-Ho Kim as the first chairman of this council, serving a term of 5 years, after which free elections will be held, and I invite humanity, Earth itself, to join the Empire as equal members of our Federation. He pressed buttons on his throne, broadcasting his words to every corner of the Empire. Billions of beings across thousands of worlds heard the announcement. The shock rippled outward like a wave. Sang-Ho raised his weapon again. I will not allow this mockery. I have 500 ships surrounding this palace. You cannot enforce this decision. Actually, a new voice said, he has more than that. Ships appeared on the view screens. hundreds of them, from dozens of different species. Not military vessels, but civilian ships, cargo haulers, passenger liners, research vessels, all converging on the palace. A Kelsey captain's face appeared on the screen. We heard the Emperor's broadcast. My world was saved by the fund when our oceans were dying. We will defend it. Another captain spoke. This one, Tharn. The fund built schools on our colony worlds. We will not let it be corrupted. More and more, ships arrived, a civilian fleet far outnumbering Sangho's military vessels. The people of the Empire had spoken. The Admiral's hand trembled. He lowered his weapon slowly. This isn't over. Yes, the Emperor said softly. It is. His eyes closed. His hand fell from his throne. Captain Bo Young moved to his side, checking his vitals, then shook her head. Emperor Talvon of the Vrexian Empire was dead. The throne room fell silent except for Daeho's quiet sobs. He had known his grandfather for less than 2 weeks, but the loss felt immense. This being had watched over him his entire life, had protected. His mother had built something beautiful across the galaxy, and now he was gone. Jia left quietly, her dreams of power shattered. Admiral Sang-ho and his officers were arrested by loyalist forces. The coup had failed before it truly began, defeated not by military might but by the very people the fund had helped over millennia. The next days were a blur of funeral ceremonies and political reorganization. The Empire began the complex process of transforming from an imperial system into a federation. Species that had been subjects became citizens. Representatives were chosen, elections planned, new laws written. Daeho was installed as the first chairman of the Galactic Fund Council. He would serve 5 years working with representatives from hundreds of species to continue the fund's mission. Earth was officially invited to join the Federation, and the secret facilities were revealed to humanity. The revelation caused shock, celebration, and some controversy. But humanity began taking its first real steps toward becoming a galactic civilization. 1 year later, on Thanksgiving, Daeho sat in his old apartment in Seoul. He had kept it, refusing to move to a palace or mansion. Yoonji was there cooking dinner. Bo Young had come too, now serving as the head of fund security. They had become his family in this strange new life. The apartment was crowded with food from a dozen worlds. Korean dishes sat next to Vrexian delicacies and Kelsey seafood and Tharn spice breads. The table barely held it all. "This is too much food," Daeho said, laughing. "It's Thanksgiving," Yoonji replied. "My first real one. I want to do it right." They turned on the news. Earth's first warp-capable ship was being launched from a new orbital facility.